There was a woman named Judy who lived in an old house on a cliff overlooking the sea. She was divorced from her husband. Judy had been deeply depressed ever since her son Harry drowned and died. She was devastated by the loss and felt like she couldn't go on. As time went by, Judy began reading books about black magic and Satanism. The more she read, the more she became immersed in the world of the supernatural. It was like an addiction. She came across a spell that was supposed to be able to resurrect the dead. On one dark night, she drew a pentagram on the floor of her living room. Lighting some black candles, she stood in the middle of the pentagram, and at the stroke of midnight, she read aloud from an ancient satanic book. "Come, fulfill my desire and do my bidding in accordance with my will. I implore thee in the name of Satan, to whom all evil is obedient, by which name the earth is overthrown and the seas turn black, the ground shudders. Fire is quenched, and all host of things in heaven and hell do tremble. Lucifer, prince of darkness, return my son who drowned by accident. Return him to me now, I command thee." Afterwards, Judy blew out the candles. She collapsed to her knees and began to weep. All of a sudden, she heard a faint scratching on her front door. Cautiously, she walked over to the door and listened. The scratching grew louder. "Who's there?" she cried. There was a long silence, and then she heard a voice whisper, "Mommy?" Judy opened the door and was shocked to see a small boy crouched on the doorstep. He was soaking wet and shivering in the cold. "Harry," she cried, "it's you! It's really you!" She humbly brought him inside and put a towel around him, trying to warm him up. His teeth were chattering and his hands were shaking. "I was so lonely and desolate without you, Harry," she said. "Where were you? What happened?" "I remember water," he said. "Cold water, and I couldn't breathe. I woke up and couldn't remember who I was. I walked and walked and walked in the rain. These people found me and took me in. I didn't know if I was alive or dead." "You're alive, Harry," she cried. "You're really alive, and I'm so happy to have you back. Was I a good boy, Mommy?" Harry asked. "Of course you were a good boy," she replied. "Did you love me, Mommy?" Harry asked. "I do love you," she replied, "from the bottom of my heart." "Were you nice to me, Mommy?" Harry asked. "Of course I was," she said. Harry stared at her. It was a mean, angry stare, and there was a spiteful sneer on his face. It frightened Judy. "I want to play a game with you, Mommy," he cried. "Hide and seek." All of a sudden, he raced up the stairs. All of the lights in the house went out. "Harry, what are you doing?" she cried. "Where are you?" There was no answer. "Harry, stop this," she cried. "I want you to come right back here, Harry. Please don't do this to Mommy. Harry, for the last time, what are you doing?" Just then she heard the boy's voice coming from the darkness. "Aren't you glad the lights are out, Mommy?" he said. "It makes the game more fun." "You're going to hurt yourself in the dark," Judy replied. Judy cautiously walked up the stairs, feeling her way in the darkness. When she got to the top, she looked around, straining her eyes to see. "Harry, stop this now," she shouted. "You're making Mommy very angry." All of a sudden, the door burst open and Harry was standing there cackling like a maniac. In his hand, he held a long, sharp kitchen knife. "Let's play hide and seek now, Mommy," he said. Judy recoiled in horror. Backing away, she tripped and went tumbling down the stairs. When she landed at the bottom, she looked up and saw her son coming down the stairs with the knife raised above his head. "What are you doing, Harry?" she asked in a trembling voice. "You lied, Mommy," he said. "Harry didn't really drown by accident. You knew that Harry drowned himself. He couldn't stand the way you treated him, and he killed himself just to get away from you. Don't you see? Harry didn't want to come back, Mommy. Harry hates you. He didn't want to come back, so he sent me instead." Just then there was a flash of lightning and it lit up the house. For one terrible moment, Judy saw the face of the thing that had come back instead of Harry.
Back when I was in the Army, we ran into something pretty unexplainable during a regular navigation exercise. Navigation exercises are pretty standard throughout the world. Given a map and some location, you have to find checkpoints using a compass. Of course, each squad was given a signal set to use in case of emergencies, or just to add to the weight they had to lug around. It's part of their kit anyway. There's a GPS embedded inside, but it's old school and gives the location only. Close to the end of the exercise, a squad had fallen hopelessly behind, but they were on their way to the last checkpoint. So I was in charge of the last checkpoint with another fellow instructor. We knew they were around us in a 1 kilometer radius, but couldn't spot them due to foliage. We waited and waited for about 2 hours. You don't mess up so friggin' bad that you can't figure out a checkpoint that's 1 kilometer away. We radioed them and did not get a reply until a half an hour after the initial call. They were frantic. Seems like they were walking around in circles and seeing similar landmarks. It was apparently pitch dark at where they were, and this was around 7 p.m., where the sun was only starting to set. Me and another trainer told them not to move, and we hiked to their position using an electronic GPS. And at the location given, we found no one. The forest was also eerily quiet. No insects, no birds, just dead silence. It was pretty unnerving. The radio set was silent. Not even static was coming out. We radioed them again, and they said they were at the same location as us, but I saw no one. They told us that they seemed to walk around in circles. They kept leaving marks on trees using a blade, but when they came back to what should have been the tree that they marked, the mark was gone. At this point in time, I felt as if they were being followed too. I ignored that gut and we walked a little more further. We walked and walked, but there was no one, not even a mark on any of the trees like they said. How was this possible, I thought? We were on the exact location given. A few minutes later, while walking, I stumbled upon something that felt like a log to my boots. I looked down and it was the dead body of my fellow mate from that squad, covered in blood. We were horrified. We looked around and found bodies of all the guys in the squad. "Hello, check. Can you hear me?" came a noise from the radio. "We are right here. When are you reaching here?" said the voice. The fellow instructor and I stood there in shock. If these guys were dead, then who was speaking to us through the radio all this while?